Walking.
Yes.
We don't do much of that these days. It seems to have gone out of fashion with all the Ubers and the other ways to get around and all the sedentary behavior that we do living and working in offices. What should we know about walking and how important it is? Because I'll be honest, I don't walk that much.
Yes, I always say it's the most underrated, underutilized, easily accessible activity that most of us are not doing. If you look at the research on average step count that most people globally are taking, it's about 45 to 4,900.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
Which means that there's a lot of us that are taking less than that. So when I'm working with my patients, we always look at baseline numbers. What's your baseline? So for example, if you had a person who was walking 2,500 steps a day, I mean, some of us would be like, wow, that's not a lot.
Mhm.
But for a lot of us, it is. If you were to walk an additional 500 steps in a day, your baseline's 2,500, you can reduce your risk of cardiovascular mortality by 7%.
Wow.
Here's a bigger wow. If you have 1,000-step increase, you can reduce your risk of all-cause mortality by 15%.
Dying of anything.
All-cause mortality. 15%, that's a big number for 1,000 steps.
Mm.
So I have a story for you. This is a patient of mine, and it just, it warms my heart to talk about him because when I saw him, he was 2 years into a diagnosis of heel pain, 27 years old. So he had gone to see a bunch of people, and the last doctor that he had seen told him to limit his step count to 2,500 steps a day.
Why?
To rest the foot. Now, this is chronic pain now. We're not talking acute heel pain. We are 2 years into this song and dance. And he's being told at 27 years old to take 2,500 steps a day. So he comes into my office. We're talking about all of this. And he's also a quadruplet. So it was one of the first quadruplets I think I've ever treated. So he has, why I think pain is so difficult. It's so complicated because now you have this 27-year-old who's seeing his siblings who are at 27, like enjoy their life and doing all these things. And he's being told he can take 2,500 steps a day. So he's now living in his father's basement. And he's afraid to go above 2,500 steps. And he used to tell me, he's like, I cry a lot. I'm depressed. And wouldn't you be if... So there wasn't any magic exercise that I was going to give him 2 years into this. There wasn't any magic orthotic or magic shoe. He had done all of that. Shame on me if I would have done the same thing. So we had a conversation. And I knew I needed to get him outside and I needed to get him walking. That was my goal. Forget about the heel pain. We didn't even focus. We didn't even talk about the heel pain. I knew I needed to get him outside and start loading his foot. 2 years, this foot, by the way, when you're walking, 4 to 6 times your body weight. It can handle 4 to 6 times your body weight when you're walking. But you don't load it appropriately and muscles atrophy. So I told him, we had a long conversation. And I said, we're going to slowly start to introduce steps. And if you think about this, if we were to say, add 1,000 steps a day, to some people that might not sound like a lot. But to someone who's taking 2,500 steps, that's almost 50% of what they're doing. So we introduced the concept of a micro walk, which is a 5-minute walk. So a 5-minute walk is about 500 steps.
Okay.
A 10-minute walk is about 1,000 steps.
Okay.
Right? So that makes it like a little more digestible, right? So you're talking to him, you're like, listen, all I need is 5 minutes. And so we started 5-minute walks. And for the first couple weeks, it was, there were good days, there were bad days, and there still are. But we were starting to build his confidence in movement. We were starting to get him comfortable on his foot again. And it was, it was one of those cases where I just I really enjoyed working with him and watching what had happened, because if you look at step counts, I knew what number I was trying to get to. Because if you look at depression, for example, 5,000 steps a day can reduce the risk of having symptoms of depression.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to 7,500 steps per day, it can reduce the prevalence of the diagnosis of depression. So that was in the back of my head. I'm like, we just got to keep working towards these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were doing that, we were strengthening his foot. I had him in different footwear. And at the end of each week, we were also talking about 3 good things. Tell me 3 good things that happened to you this week. And in the beginning of treatment, it was a struggle, Stephen. It was a struggle for him to think about good things happening in his life. And I spoke with him probably about a month ago. And his email is like my why. He was like, on average, he's walking between 5,000 and 6,000 steps a day. He still has good days, or still has bad days, more good days than bad days. But he said to me, he's like, I can't tell you the last time I cried. He's going to church. He's spending time with his dad, and it's not the step count. It's the person behind the step count. And that's why I think this stuff is so powerful. I saw it change my life. I saw what it does to my patients. I mean, it has the capacity to improve not just your physical health, but how you interact with the world.
It has a completely different meaning when you understand the real sort of human consequences it can have on someone's life, for better or for worse. And it's not often until we have some kind of injury or issue that we
Yes.
realize that our feet and ankles were there.
Yes.
And that's certainly been the case in my life. It wasn't until I got plantar fasciitis that I was like, oh my God, I should have been doing something about this sooner. And then, as I told you before we started recording, I've currently got a high ankle sprain.
Mm-hmm.
So I've pulled some ligaments in the top of my ankle, training for this game called Soccer Aid. So I'm now going through the whole process once again of like figuring out what I did wrong and what I should have been doing as a preventative measure to try and strengthen my feet. One of the things that I think most of us get wrong is our footwear choices.
Yes.
And I've got a range of footwear on this table in front of me here. These are the types of shoes that most people wear. From a very young age, I think we all wear shoes like this.
Yes.
Sort of narrow shoes with a big heel, if anyone can't see our conversation at the moment. So like the typical trainer.
Mm-hmm.
What is the issue with wearing these from an early age?
When I was doing research to have this discussion with you, it was fascinating to me when you look at the statistics of, especially with children, with girls, around 70% are wearing shoes that are too narrow.
Too narrow, the end part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about the widest part of the foot should be the toes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at a shoe like that, that is not the widest part. It's tapered. See how the toe box looks like it's tapered?
Yeah, it's pointed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when you put your foot in there, it's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It changes the structure of the foot. It's like the lowest hanging fruit for me is just wear a shoe that fits your foot. Because when it's in that position, it changes the structure. If I walked around with my arm in a sling for 10 years, would my bicep get weak?
Yeah, you'd lose your mobility as well.
Correct. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And so that's why I think footwear has such a big implication on our function. Men's dress shoes.
Men's dress shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is crazy. The point on that.
Yes, it's funny. My brother lives in New York City, and we have this conversation all the time. And he's like, look at this one. It's wide. I'm like, nope, that's not wide. Okay? And they're stiff and they're, again, changing the structure of the foot. A lot of those shoes also have a little bit of a heel to toe drop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is when the heel to toe drop, so the heel and the toes sit in one plane. But when you have a higher heel to toe drop, it's like you have a mini high heel on.
Yeah. And what's the problem with that?
Well, if my foot is supposed to sit flat, I have tissues in the back of my leg that are in a good length tension relationship. I have even pressures across my foot.
Yeah.
The second I go and change those things, where I go into a heel, you put additional pressure on the front of the foot, you shorten the muscles in the back of the leg, so you start changing the function and the structure of not only the foot, but everything that sits above it.
Your calf, your hamstring, your back. Do you see a lot of back injuries that are relating to things like heels and...
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm. It's all, I see mostly people come in for foot pain. And I always say to my patients, I wish it was just about the foot. I wish I could just look at your foot and say, this is what it is. It's all right here. But it's not. Because there's a body that sits on top of the foot. Mm-hmm. The strength of the hip, for example, controls the foot. It controls how the foot unlocks. So you have to take that into account when you're looking at patients with foot pain.
But this is this shape because it's fashionable, right?
Yes. It's my biggest, I always tell my daughter, because my daughter, she's like, you make me wear these platypus shoes. And I'm like, listen, it's function over fashion, but I get it. That is my biggest challenge, is making, is looking for shoes, but they've come a long way. They've come a very, very long way. And I think that we're getting there.
Is there an issue with the thickness of the heel on these shoes? This big, when I say the thickness of the heel, I really mean the thickness of the sole.
So the cushion and the cushion.
It's really, really soft and cushiony. And there's about, an inch at the back here of sole.
Yeah. The cushion conversation is always very interesting. There's always a trade-off. So there's a lot of popular shoes right now that have a lot of cushion on them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue when someone goes into a store and they're given this shoe that has this pillow on it and they're standing on it for 3 seconds and they're like, man, this feels really good. The problem with cushion is that the more stuff that's between your foot and the ground, the less you feel. So there's a loss of sensory acuity. There's a loss of sensory perception. Remember, imagine the foot's a sensory organ. And it is. Because there's thousands of receptors that are, screaming for information to help keep us upright in a biped. So when we start interfering with how that foot feels, you can expect there to be problems. Now, if you have someone that's standing in place all day long, right, on concrete, on man-made surfaces, there's a time and a place. But my non-negotiable is at least keep the foot in its functional position, which means a wide toe box. So you want to stand on concrete all day long? Fine. Put some cushion underneath your foot. Help yourself out. That's okay. But at least allow those toes to splay so that you can have balance. You can have your foot in a position that can propel you forward.
I was just thinking about my foot as you're talking, and I'm pretty sure my pinky toe looks... I'm not going to be able to sell pictures on OnlyFans of my feet because my pinky toe is kind of like crumpled in.
It like curls under, right?
Yeah, it's like curled under.
Right. Kind of looks like a shoe, like you had a shoe there.
Excuse me. No, but you're right. It is. It is like that. It's kind of like been pushed in and underneath. And I guess that's not natural.
No, it is not.
How does a natural foot look? Like, have you been to see a tribe who don't wear these cushioned shoes? Have you seen what like a uncushioned foot looks like?
I'm obsessed. I watch people's feet all the time. I was just in Belize with my mother and daughter for spring break.
Slightly creepy. Sorry.
It is, isn't it?
And you're looking at people's feet on holiday.
I'm always looking at people's feet because it tells a story. It's like someone's gait. Watching someone walk tells a story. You can tell if they just got fired or if they just got promoted, But when you look at someone's foot, I was in Belize and with my mom and daughter, and there were these two guys building a house, a little bit off the beach, barefoot. And I'm looking at their foot and I'm going, wow, it was wide. It looked thick. It looked flat. And, I think in our society, if you will, when we think of a flat foot, we think, oh, this is bad news. We better go get an orthotic.
An orthotic is a
device that you put underneath the foot to help modify loads.
what do they call those in the UK? Insoles.
Like an insole.
Okay.
Yes. And so I'm watching these guys build this house and they're like coming up on their toes and they have all this, toe range of motion and all this strength and power to their foot. And I'm like, that's what our foot was designed to do, is to be strong, to support. It's like building a house on sand.
Yeah.
You have to have a foundation that you can build upon. And it was really cool to see. It really was.
When I had that pain in my foot, which they told me was plantar fasciitis, they recommended that I go to some foot doctor person. And this foot doctor person measured me up for insoles.
Yes.
And I put the insoles in. And then I took the insoles out. And instead of that, I just wore different shoes.
Yeah.
A lot of people's first sort of diagnosis and the thing that they're told to do whenever they have foot pain or back pain or whatever is go get some insoles. Is this what you think we should be doing? Because it's really, really common. It seems to be the like in medicine, they throw pills at you if you have certain symptoms. It seems to be the first thing that we do when someone has a foot problem or an ankle problem.
First line of intervention that's why you want to change how we're viewing the foot. It's either if your foot hurts, here's an orthoses,
Which is
a foot orthotic, an insert.
Yeah.
Or if it hurts worse, get surgery. If you look at the research on plantar fasciitis, okay, so itis being acute, it will tell you that putting an orthoses or something to modify the load underneath the foot can be beneficial initially because you want to offload something that hurts.
Yeah.
But if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So the part of the conversation that's being missed is the and conversation. It's wear this insert and strengthen your foot. Because the goal should be to have an exit strategy for the insert and get your foot back on the ground. Because I have patients, Stephen, they will come in with 20 pairs of orthotics, 20 pairs of inserts. They've tried this one. They've tried that one. They've tried different shoes, higher heel to toe drops, more cushion. And I'm sitting there going, we're missing the boat here. Let's have the and conversation. One of the muscles that is a good predictor of having heel pain, okay, is it runs parallel to the plantar fascia. So it's flexor digitorum brevis. It basically takes the four toes and presses them down.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways you can assess for this. So we'll look at their toe strength, and then it almost always correlates with the side that has the heel pain on, because it shouldn't be one of those conversations you're like, man, I wonder where this came from. No, your foot is weak. Your foot is weak. There's a lot of load going through it. And the structures are, getting beat up.
There's something Daniel Lieberman said to me, which I've never forgotten. He said, if you took a child and you put them in 2-inch thick gloves from the day that they were born,
Yeah.
and then you took those gloves off at 30 years old, can you imagine how deformed their hands would be?
Right?
And that's like very much the way that we live our lives. We spend
Yes.
pretty much all day wearing these big cushioned shoes that sometimes have these heels on. So it's no wonder that so many people are getting foot problems, ankle problems, back pain.
Yeah.
So
1 in 3 people.
1 in 3 people.
Foot pain. I mean, it really is a statistic that we need to be paying attention to.
We use this word plantar fasciitis, but we didn't explain what it is and what the symptoms of it are. Is it essentially like pain in the heel of your foot?
Pain in the heel, yes. And they've played around with, the terminology, it being at plantar fasciitis, so more of an acute issue, versus plantar fasciopathy, because oftentimes these cases will turn into, having heel pain for very long periods of time.
Yeah.
So then you have to treat it differently. You don't treat something that's acute the same as you would treat something that's chronic. And so you have to look at, how can I build the resiliency to the foot?
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.